to this edition of Property Matters with me, Steve Hughes. Today, we're talking to James Willson, who's the owner of SunX. I don't want to take his limelight. I want to allow him to talk about his company and what they do, and we'll talk about some of the intricacies around the products and services that they offer. So, hello, James. How are you doing today?
Hello, Steve. Very good, thank you. Yourself?
Excellent. So tell me about SunX. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, SunX provide two services. One is window films and one is blinds. So we are into solar shading for a mixture of commercial buildings and also historic buildings where our company was founded back in the late 50s.
Okay, so you provide films and blinds. That's kind of a niche industry. How did you get involved in that?
It is very niche. I came about it really by accident. I was looking to get some money together before I went off to university, and my parents found a tiny little ad in the local paper, literally the smallest and cheapest ad that you could get. Was looking for someone to do data entry on spreadsheets, which I did for about 6 months, and then just kept going back. They liked me, kept going back in the holidays to keep some money going, and graduated. And then they said, "Oh, we've got a couple of weeks work for you. Just come back and we'll see what we can do." And then I kind of never left. Took on more senior roles throughout the company. And then probably just before lockdown, the owners were looking to pack up for good. So we set up a management buyout, which I started, and then lockdown came along, and then I used the bank's money that they were handing out to buy the company. So I'm now 26 years in to the company, right from the very bottom. I'm now the owner. I think the last 18 months or so.
Okay, so James, obviously in the background, I'm noticing that you have a beautiful emblem and that SunX is appointed to Her Majesty the Queen as a supplier and installers of ultraviolet filters and traditional blinds. That is not a small achievement. That's actually phenomenal. Does that mean you do all the blinds and filters for the palaces?
Yes, that's right. It's the main function is to protect the interiors, so the paintings, the tapestries, all the furniture from being bleached by sunlight coming in, the ultraviolet radiation. So that's what that's the purpose that we work there for. But it's a very nice feather to have in your cap. We've had it for nearly 20 years now. You have to submit a body of work over a 5-year period to obtain the warrant in the first place, and they judge whether the work that you've done is of a sufficient quantity to be awarded the warrant. And then you have to at least have to renew that every 5 years. But luckily, we've been able to do more and more work for the household over those periods of time. They've been taking more of a keen eye on conserving the interiors of the buildings, which is it's not a huge amount of work, but it's mainly the recognition that we can show to other companies that we're thinking of using our services, that we work for the finest buildings, very sensitive locations, so we can be trusted to do a good job and to a very high standard.
Absolutely, it's phenomenal. It's something that it really is a testament to the quality of your work and the caliber of your team. Just a quick thing, I want to ask you a couple of questions about films for windows, and just so I can learn a little bit more, and so can the listeners and viewers. Can SunX install things such as the window film that would give one-way privacy day and night, that kind of film?
Yes, one of the facets that the film can have is that it'll give like a one-way mirror. Well, that'll only work during daylight hours. So all it does is reflects the strongest light source, which is normally daylight. Obviously, when there's no daylight and you turn the lights on inside, the strongest light source is the lighting. So it will just bounce back the lighting at you. So you'll be looking at a mirrored surface and everyone outside can see straight into your windows. So,
Which at night is not exactly what you want, especially if you're changing
yes,
from
so
it.
you need to be drawing curtains or blinds or shutters or whatever you have at the windows to after dusk once you put the lights on. Otherwise, yeah, you could be caught in an embarrassing situation if you're not careful. So.
Fair enough. No, absolutely. And if I was to want to put a film onto the window to reduce the glare from outside, but I didn't want to make the room darker, is that a possibility?
Nope. It's we get asked this a fair few times. It's by nature, to reduce the amount of glare coming in from the sun, you have to reduce the amount of light. It's a simple laws of physics. Unfortunately, it's
Sure.
the only way you can do that is
and
by diffusing the light coming in with something like a frosted film, but then you can't see in or out. So that isn't normally a good solution.
no, fair enough. Okay. And you mentioned protecting tapestries and works of art and furniture. Can I stop that by just putting a clear film on the window, or or the glass? Does it have to be a specific type?
Yeah, it will help, and certainly on a north-facing window where you're not getting direct sunlight, then a clear filter on the glass is normally sufficient. But when you've got strong sunlight coming in, particularly on sort of south-facing windows, just filtering out the UV light is not going to be enough. It will slow the process down. You've got direct light and heat are both very high causes of fading, so you need to be addressing those with either a combination of building in a tint into the film to reflect some of the heats and take the edge off the intensity of the light coming in, or drawing blinds, curtains, shutters to deal with the very strongest light coming in. So if you've got light falling on an object, that it will degenerate the surface quite quickly if you're not careful. So it's just filtering out the UV isn't enough on its own, though.
Okay, but how much then would it affect the appearance of the glass to having a protective film on?
There are various types. There's a good 100 or so different types of film that you can have. Obviously, we work a lot in listed buildings, so you can't change the appearance of the glass in those instances. But there are films that will do a range of things. So reducing the UV coming in, it can reduce half of the heat coming in. It can prevent over 10% of the heat being lost through the glass. So all those things wrapped up in one single piece of film applied to the glass, but without changing the appearance. So it's a very, very effective and very niche.
Okay, so you said that it protects some of the heat getting in, but also at the same time some of the heat getting out. So that must have an impact on energy bills. Can I reduce heat loss with a film rather than changing the window or installing like a secondary glazing?
Yes, absolutely. In instances where you say if you're in a listed building or a conservation area, you're not allowed to change the glass, then putting a film on the glass can make quite a big difference. It's obviously there's different degrees of efficacy. The ones that you'd have to use on a listed building, so you get just over 10% of the insulation improvement over winter. There are on a commercial building where you've got a bit more leeway to use slightly more reflective films. You can get that up to about a quarter of the energy being saved in the winter. So it really is effective all year round. So it can save on a commercial building, you can save a huge amount on the air conditioning being used in the summer, up to half of the energy usage we've been finding, and then that can work in the winter as well. So it's saving on gas in the winter and electricity in the summer. So you can get very quick paybacks from installing that in a commercial building with heavily glazed areas.
Okay, and how long does a film on glass last in standard circumstances?
It does vary quite a lot from around the UK. If you live in Scotland, it can quite easily last 20-25 years because the sun isn't as strong. It won't burn out the adhesive quite as fast. Right on the south coast, facing south, may be as short as 10 years, but about 15 to 20 years is a fair average for the lifespan.
Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. And over that period of time, what's the return on investment that a good film can offer on the savings of electricity and heating?
Yeah, with the way the energy prices are at the moment, it is an extremely effective solution for commercial buildings at the moment. So we're working on some case studies at the moment, but we're expecting to get results of around about 2 to 3 years in the best circumstances. But certainly in the majority of cases, I'd say 3 to 5 years is certainly a very achievable payback time for commercial buildings that have heating and ventilation.
Really impressive. Okay, and besides the cost saving and then the protection for your interiors of the building, are there any other benefits that come as a byproduct of putting the film on? Are there security benefits or other benefits that you can mention?
Yes, it'll help strengthen the glass as well. So if it breaks, it'll help stop dangerous pieces of shattered glass from injuring people or getting stuck in computer equipment.
Sure.
And honestly, it will help depending on the use of the building. If it's a hotel, then the customers will be a lot happier in a more evenly temperate room, so they'll be able to sleep at night. It won't be too hot. It's also office staff will be more productive with a cooler environment with a bit less glare coming in. If they'll be needing less breaks, or they get less eye strain from the sun coming in, and it will also block out the UV that ages skin as well. That's another minor benefit, but if someone's working by a window all day, then it will help protect their skin.
Okay.
Glass will prevent it from burning, but it's that the actual aging of the skin is a side issue. Also, for people with conditions such as lupus that are affected by sunlight, it's a very big benefit for them.
All right, that's really interesting as well. I didn't realize that people with lupus would be affected by sunlight so much, but fascinating to know. From what you've mentioned hotels, you've mentioned palaces, museums. Do you even do right down to residential houses?
Not quite so much. We will if it's something like a conservatory that's suffering. They're quite commonly suffering from overheating in the summer, so that's something we might do a bit closer to home from in Sussex where we work. We do work all over the UK for sort of more specialised buildings such as the palaces and museums, or care homes are sort of the crossover between residential and commercial.
Okay.
They quite often suffer from overheating as well, and obviously the residents can be affected by overheating. So that's another area of domestic installations that we can help with. But it's quite a lot often those sorts of buildings where getting access to the inside of the rooms would be quite challenging, or a hospital, for example, where you've got wards and machinery that you can't really get into. Then the films can quite often be applied on the outside of the building, so you're not disturbing the use inside. You just need a nice bit of weather while you're installing it, Otherwise, it's extremely effective and it bounces the heat away before it even gets soaked into the glass. So it's actually more effective doing it that way. It's reducing the heat coming in.
So you can install it either on the inside or the outside of the glass, should the need call for it.
Yes, absolutely. It has to be installed on the inside if you are wanting to improve the insulation in the winter. It basically reflects the radiant heat back into the room, so the coating needs to be on the inside. But if you're just looking to keep it cooler in the summer, then if you've got double or triple glazing, then yes, it'll be more effective on the outside of the building.
Amazing. Okay, so you mentioned that you cover all over the UK. Is it so? Do you go across the Channel to Ireland as well, or is it just?
Yes, we've worked in a few National Trust buildings in Northern Ireland, and we work for a few stately homes, sort of the equivalent in the Republic. A few castles and that we've worked on. It's a combination of film and blinds there to protect the interiors. So we even worked over in Europe as well. We did quite a big job in a museum in Copenhagen a while back. And we've worked at some of our clients are sort of stately homeowners. They have properties abroad, sort of holiday homes that they spend quite a lot of time in. So we've done a few in Italy, Spain. It's sort of extending the client base out there as well.
So you've actually gone into Europe quite a lot.
Yeah, but the way you can get a cheap flight these days, it's not that cost prohibitive to nip over to Europe and send a team over there to do the work. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So if our listeners or viewers want to get in touch with SunX or yourself personally to find out more about your products or services, how can they find you? Where do they go to?
They can go to our website, which is very simply sun-x.co.uk. I'm available on LinkedIn, James Willson with 2 L's unusually. But I'll help people find me a bit better rather than trawling through lots of James Wilsons with 1 L.
Where's the second L come from? Is that?
Oh, don't ask me that. We think we originate from the northeast, up in the sort of Newcastle area, but and it may. My brother's done quite a bit of research into the family history. He's quite into that. He thinks it might even have been an accident, just someone filling in a birth certificate or wrong, just adding an extra L, or someone reading it wrong. So that may have been something as simple as that. So
it makes you more unique.
Bit of a mystery, absolutely.
Well, James Willson with 2 L's from SunX, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. The website again, www.sun-x.co.uk. Until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
For more information on property matters, on Steve Hughes, or on any of our guests, please email propertymatterspodcast@gmail.com.